This is Nixon. Oh, here he goes! My goodness!
They may not like the cold,
He's taking it the distance!
but they represent the green and gold.
Love to Watson.
Going deep, has a man, it's caught, Watson is in, touchdown Green Bay!
Welcome to the West Coast Cheeseheads podcast.
Welcome, Packer family, to another episode of the West Coast Cheeseheads podcast. As you know, I'm your host, Mateo, alongside with my co-host, Joe, and thank you for joining us on a victory episode as our Green Bay Packers defeat the New Orleans Saints 17-18. We're really excited for this win, but there is a lot that we need to go into because for anybody that watched this game, 3 quarters were just really hard to watch, with 1 quarter that was awesome. Just an excellent quarter by our Green Bay Packers. But before we get into this, I would like to say thank you to all of our listeners out there who have assisted us and just supported us through this whole podcast. We truly appreciate it. And if you haven't yet, please like, or as Joe specifically likes to say, smash that like and subscribe button so that way you'll be updated whenever new episodes are available. Also, if you haven't yet, please follow us on Facebook at West Coast Cheeseheads Podcast, Instagram at WC Cheeseheads Podcast, Twitter at WC Cheeseheads, or TikTok at WC Cheeseheads. We are here to provide you with all information, anything, and everything Packer related. We may not like the cold, but certainly still rep the green and gold. So, Joe, how you feeling right now?
Mateo, I'm feeling great. 11th straight year for Packers to win their home opener. We had a really hard opponent today in the Saints, and you know what? It was sloppy for the first 3 quarters. It was ugly, but at the end of the day, we came out with the W, and that's all that matters. So I'm always happy on Sundays when the Packers get the win. So we'll get into everything, but feeling good right now.
Oh yeah, definitely gonna have to dig deep into this one right here. But for all of you that are watching out there, just know whenever Packers get a victory, you'll be getting a little bit of the victory chain. So we're really excited that we got this win. But yeah, let's go ahead and let's dive into this because there's a lot that we need to touch base on. And it's going to be a lot of negative to start off with because there was a lot of stuff that was going on in this game that just wasn't really satisfying to watch. Starting off with the penalties. Packers had allowed a lot of penalties in this game. What do you think on that?
Yeah, we had too many penalties in this game. We had 11 penalties that resulted in 90 yards of penalty yards. It was not pretty. It was sloppy, like I said earlier. Really need to clean it up because penalties like this, they're inexcusable, and they're going to cost us wins down the line. Packers definitely need to clean it up. Coach staff needs to go over this with the players, and we need to avoid all these penalties going forward.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these penalties were false start penalties, which, it seemed like there were a couple times where we were making drives, but then a false start after an illegal formation, they just kept on popping up. And it could be from the fact that our offense had 4 or 5 of our key starters that were missing, and so we had some of these other young guys that were out there, but they still should know. They prepare for this stuff all week, and I agree. They do need to clean this up. So besides the penalties, I think our next big topic that we need to talk about is A.J. Dillon. I know I feel like a broken record that I keep on bringing him up, but he's just not performing the way that I think we all thought that he was going to do. And as of right now, we're really missing Aaron Jones.
Yeah, A.J. Dillon was terrible. He's been terrible this whole season. He was terrible today. He had 33 yards over 11 carries. His long was for 14 yards. And when you take that long rush out of the mix, that means he had 10 carries for 19 yards, averaging 1.9 yards a carry. That's not going to work in the NFL. That's not going to allow the team. That's not setting the team up for success. Without getting the run game going, we're not going to win many games. We're lucky to squeak by with the win today. But something has to change. We're desperately missing Aaron Jones, and if he's not ready to go next week, I really think Matt LaFleur needs to consider going to Patrick Taylor as the number one, because A.J. Dillon isn't cutting it. Going into the season, we really thought that Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon was going to be a very dynamic duo to piggyback off each other, but we could clearly see that Aaron Jones is in a class of his own when you compare him to A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon is not getting the job done. Offensive line needs to do something to start opening up holes for our running backs. We can't rely on Jordan Love and the receiving corps to do everything for us, because defenses are going to start sitting back. They're going to start sitting back into these zone coverages and just locking down our receiving corps, But something needs to change with these running backs, especially A.J. Dillon.
Right. And Patrick Taylor, looking at his stats, he only had 3 carries for 6 yards today, but on the receiving side of it, looks like he had 3 receptions for 23 yards. So it's a lot more impressive, compared to A.J. Dillon's 11 carries for 33 yards. His longest was 14 yards. His longest carry was 14 yards. But yeah, I think something's got to give here. And, Patrick Taylor could possibly be the answer to this. And it really pains me to say so, because I do have a lot of appreciation for A.J. Dillon and everything that he does, even behind the scenes, for this Packer organization. But when it comes down to it, we need to get somebody that's out there that's going to create some big-time plays for us.
Yeah, and no one's questioning his character. No one's questioning what he does off the field. But you know what? It comes down to wins, and it comes down to performance on the field. And if you're not going to be able to cut it, then something's got to change. We got to get a replacement in there. Again, we have the replacement already. We're just waiting for Aaron Jones to get in there to take over the primary back role from A.J. Dillon. But until then, Matt LaFleur's got some questions to answer.
Yeah. Okay, now moving on to the next subject. We got to talk about Jordan Love, okay? Because besides his fourth quarter performance, which he finally started to pull it together, but that doesn't account for the 3 quarters previously before that. Jordan Love just looked kind of sloppy out there today. I have to say it. It just seemed like he just wasn't really able to make any connections with any of the receivers, but it also kind of falls on the receivers themselves too, because there were a lot of drops that were taking place. I'm not going to give any excuse to that, though, because when it comes down to it, a lot of those throws from Jordan Love, he just wasn't making the connection with them. And he kept on throwing the ball to the Saints Taylor and near the Saints Taylor. And, that guy just really had our number today. And I don't know why he kept on trying to drive the ball that way. Ultimately, it ended up actually working out, because Jayden Reed ended up having a phenomenal catch in the fourth quarter, which ended up leading to the go-ahead touchdown by Romeo Doubs, which gave us the lead. But still, if you've got the pressure right there, get it to somebody else. Go ahead and read the field a little bit better. So, yeah, I wasn't really too impressed with 3 quarters of Jordan Love today.
Going into the season, Mateo, all of our listeners know that I wasn't the biggest fan of Jordan Love. I was actually one of his biggest critics. He has surprised me and impressed me the first couple games, but today, in the first 3 quarters and the start of the fourth quarter, he was the quarterback that I thought he was going to be. He was the quarterback that showed inexperience. He was the quarterback that showed very bad decision-making, and he was a quarterback that shows that he doesn't have the knowledge to be a top-tier NFL quarterback. I'm not saying that's going to continue to happen. I think that the first 2 games are more indicative to how he's going to perform in the long run, but today he did not live up to those overwhelming high impressions that he has given over the last couple games. He had some very bad passes and poor decision making. He threw into triple coverage a couple times. He was forcing passes to receivers that were nowhere near open. He was missing receivers. The first 3 quarters and the start of the fourth were bad by Jordan Love.
Right. Yeah, and today was his first interception, and I don't know what he was thinking when he actually threw that ball. I think he was just trying to force the ball down the field, and he was trying to get some points on the board. But, yeah, you got to read that stuff a little bit better. But going into the receivers, okay, so one receiver in particular that I need to bring up is Jayden Reed, because Reed was really off of his game too. He had a lot of drop passes today, and it was kind of concerning. you know, like I said, he did have it was a great catch in that fourth quarter, but no excuse for a lot of those other drops that he had out there today.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I can think of 3 drops that he had that were actually very crucial. One was the drop in the end zone where he actually came down with the ball, but as soon as he hit the ground, the ball bounced out of his hands. There was one, I believe it was in the second or third quarter, I don't remember. Jordan Love threw him a ball right over the middle, hit him right in the chest. He tried to run and get yards after the catch before catching the ball, basically, and just flat out dropped it. And then there was one in the fourth quarter where he was being led to the sidelines, ball hit him in the hands, and he just simply dropped it and then ran into the Saints Gatorade cart. He did make up for it with that very impressive, stellar catch in the fourth quarter that led to the go-ahead touchdown. But other than that, looking at the stats right now, he did have he had 3 receptions for 63 yards. Those numbers could be drastically different. They could be way higher than than they were today. So Jayden Reed is obviously one of Jordan Love's favorite connections that he has out there on the field right now. So hopefully Jayden Reed can clean it up in the games going forward.
Yeah, and Romeo Doubs, looks like I'm looking at his receptions, 5 receptions for 73 yards with 1 touchdown. Luke Musgrave, 6 receptions for 49 yards. With his longest being a 12. And then another receiver that's out there that's really impressing me is Dontavian Wicks. He's really stepped into the role with Christian Watson missing. Excuse me.
Yeah, he's been a very nice addition to this team. Going into it when Christian Watson he's obviously hasn't played a game yet, but Dontavian Wicks stepping into that wide receiver 3 role has really kind of flourished, and he's been doing very well these first 3 games. Romeo Doubs, really have nothing bad to say about him today. We'll get into him later on, but outside of Jayden Reed, I think the receiving core actually had a pretty good game today.
Yeah. Okay, now the next thing that we need to go into, and again, I told you listeners, we were going to end up going over some negatives for this game. We're talking 3 quarters of this game that just were really hard to watch. And something that we need to bring up are the miscues. There were a ton of miscues that were happening today. Starting off with our first drive that I could think of off the top of my head, where we decided to go for it on 4th down. It was a pass to Emmanuel Wilson, who dropped it back to Jordan Love, but missed him. It was on the floor, and Love had to pick it up, and then Love tried to toss the ball out, but he slipped on the grass, and they didn't end up converting, which was a turnover on downs for the Saints in great field position, allowing them to get the go-ahead score and the leading score in the game, 7-0.
Yeah, that 4th down play, I understand the reason why you'd go for that type of play in that situation. It could really kind of open up the game on a really good foot, but the execution of that play was terrible. We really looked like the Bad News Bears out there, and it was kind of embarrassing as a Packers fan to see the ball just get thrown all over the place, and then Jordan Love slip, and then just really throw the ball to nowhere. If we're going to be running plays like that, they need to be cleaned up, because that was kind of flat out embarrassing. Before we move on, Mateo, I'm sorry, I need to bring up one more miscue because it was in such a crucial part of the game. 4th down, 4th and 2 to start the 4th quarter off. We're driving. We're having momentum, about to score a touchdown. Patrick Taylor is out in the flats, and Jordan Love just flat out misses him. He just misses him. Like, I don't know if the route was ran wrong or what was going on, but Jordan Love just flat out missed him. Not only would that have been an easy first down to continue the drive, but that's potentially a touchdown pass right there. Because if you look, there's not many defenders in front of Patrick Taylor once he would have caught that ball. So that was a huge miscue besides that other 4th down that we didn't convert on. So just wanted to bring that up before we moved on.
Yeah, I do remember that one. And for that play, I mean, that was an easy check down play. I mean, he could have easily just checked that ball down to Patrick Taylor, and yeah, like you said, I mean, he probably could have ran that thing into the end zone, but one way or another, we were only talking about 2 yards there, even for him to just get the ball up enough so that way we have more of a continuation on downs for the drive. So, yeah, you make a good point there. These miscues, yeah, we're really going to have to go back and look into this because I don't think these mistakes are going to fly this coming Thursday against NFC North rival in the Detroit Lions.
Agreed.
Okay. Well, yeah, so going into our next segment, which is something new that we want to start off with, and we are going to be calling this our Stinky Cheese Play of the Day. Joe, what would you have to go with?
My Stinky Cheese Play of the Day, I just mentioned it. I literally just mentioned it. It's the check down pass to Patrick Taylor. That could have been an easy first down. That could have been potentially a touchdown pass. It was a very simple pass. Again, I don't know if the route was ran incorrectly. I don't know if they were just off or the play call was wrong, but that was an embarrassing pass that Jordan Love made. Thank God we were able to clean it up after that, because after that, my hopes were down. I was like, this game's going nowhere. So that was definitely my stinky cheesehead play of the game today.
Okay. Well, I'm going to have to go with another one that we just brought up too as mine, and it is that first fourth down play that we did end up going with. Bottom line, I think the play could have been executed good, and I think it would have actually changed the aspect of this game had they converted it, but it just went horribly wrong. So, yeah, I've got to go with that one being my Stinky Cheesehead Play of the Day.
Yep.
Okay. Listeners, now is the time. We're going to go into the positives on this. Fourth quarter rolls around, and the Packers start off with 11 minutes and change left in the game to get a field goal. Anders Carlson goes ahead and he kicks a field goal to put 3 on the board. We're finally not at 0. Then we stop them. We get the ball back, and then we drive the ball down the field for a touchdown. Now, this is where I had a lot of questions, and I think a lot of people out there had a lot of questions. Packers decided to go for a 2-point conversion. Had they not converted that, they would have needed to have another 2-point conversion if they had scored another touchdown just to tie the game. But they did convert it. So now Packers at this point, 17-11. Packers stop them again, get the ball back, and drive the ball down the field once again with what we brought up, a great catch by Jaden Reed and an even more amazing catch by Romeo Doubs in the end zone to bring this game to 17-18, our Packers. Now, Saints get the ball again. Defense started to get a little sloppy, which allowed the Saints to go for a field goal attempt. New field goal kicker, rookie field goal kicker for the Saints, kicks and shanks the kick. Thank God he shanks the kick, because we would have ended up losing at that point, but he does miss it, and our Packers walk away with the victory. This fourth quarter was incredible. For them to be so defeated, just so defeated for 3 solid quarters, but to be able to come out, the resiliency that they showed to be able to come back in this game and walk away with the victory was incredible. It just really was. It was incredible.
Yeah, first thing that I want to say about the positives is I want to give an absolute hand to this defense. They kept us in this game. It gave us a chance to come back to win this game, which we did. The Saints didn't score a point after like the 10-minute mark in the second quarter. We shut them down from that point on, and if it wasn't for this defense, if it wasn't for the defensive coordinator, if it wasn't for the pressure that our defensive line put on both Derek Carr and Jameis Winston, then we wouldn't have won this game. So absolute hats off to our defense today. We talked about it in the pregame episode. It was going to come down to our defense to win this ball game, and they showed up today. They absolutely showed up like I haven't seen in a long time. I'm so happy with how our defense is playing right now.
Yeah, and you know what? Really looking at the aspect of this game, I mean, the first touchdown was short field for the Saints, okay? So defense didn't really have a lot to work with when it comes down to that. Second touchdown was a punt return. So that was all based off of special teams, not necessarily our defense. If you really think about this game, our defense theoretically only ended up allowing 3 points. So, yeah, I have to agree with you. Our defense did play extremely well today.
Yeah, the fact that we pressured the quarterback 29 times today, 29 times, that's amazing. We put so much pressure on the quarterback that they had to. Jameis Winston and Derek Carr are not good quarterbacks in my eyes. And when they're out of the pocket, they're even worse. So the fact that we were able to pressure them and make them rush their throws, it's, again, hats off to this defense right now.
Yeah, definitely. A big shout out to Rashawn Gary. 3 sacks today, man. My God.
Yeah, Rashawn Gary, have yourself a day. Have yourself a day. 3 sacks. I was looking over the stats after this game, and when I came across that, I was like, wait a minute, are you kidding me? Like, Rashawn Gary, kudos to you, man. You stepped up today and really carried this Packers defensive line.
Okay. Well, yeah, so I've got to go into the stats for Jordan Love when it comes to this game. So he had 22 completions of 44 attempts, so averaged 50% total, 259 yards, and most of that came because of the fourth quarter. So, I mean, he really stepped it up. He had the 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and he also had another touchdown that he ran in. So, I mean, kudos to Jordan Love for that fourth quarter, but not to discredit everything that we ended up discussing. It wasn't one of his best games that I've seen out of him, but he really ended up showing up when it mattered.
You want to know the play that I think turned this game around was the play that Jordan Love rushed for a first down, but tiptoed the sidelines and continued on for another 15 yards. It was a run that I really think charged up this offense and gave them a little bit of energy going forward. So kudos to Jordan Love for carrying this offense. Again, the first 3 quarters and a part of the fourth quarter were absolutely terrible. But, you know, when the time comes down to it and when the pressure's on the line and you're backed into a corner, how you fight out of that corner shows what kind of quarterback you're going to be. So fourth quarter quarterback compared to the first 3 quarterbacks, first 3 quarter quarterback, what are completely different peoples, you know. And another part of this team that I really want to give kudos to, again, is that receiving core. Outside of Jaden Reed and his drop passes was phenomenal. Only few receivers in this league make that catch, and he was one of them. Jaden Reed had that phenomenal catch at one of the most important times of the game, and he was able to bring it in solidly. Luke Musgrave stepped up, had 6 receptions today, a career high with 49 receiving yards. You know, like, our receiving core has played very well this year. We've had very few miscues, and again, for them being so young, how they are, and us missing Christian Watson too, I'm very happy with this receiving core.
Yeah, I was just about to bring that up. All of this is without Christian Watson, our number 1. We haven't even seen him play yet. So, I mean, I'm really excited to see what happens once we get Watson out there. And, I mean, we saw from that first game against the Bears what we can do with Aaron Jones. So, once we get Aaron Jones out there again, too, I think we've got something really exciting to look forward to. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to our next section. We had our stinky cheesehead play of the game. Now let's go for our Gouda play of the game. What do you think, Joe?
The Gouda, well, my Gouda is more of a player of the game and not just a play. My Gouda player of the game goes out to, we just talked about him right now, Rashawn Gary. Rashawn Gary, you are the Gouda player of the game with your 3 sacks today. Hats off to you. Hats off to this defensive line. We couldn't have came out with this W without Rashawn Gary.
Yeah, Rashawn Gary, man. I mean, you really did perform well today. And, you know, I feel like a lot of the players were even saying that he was going to have a field day today, and he was going to really show what he's got to do in this defense.
What's your Gouda player or play of the game?
Well, I've got to go with, it's more or less a Gouda drive of the game, because that last drive that we were able to get that ball down the field, everything was just working in our favor. Everything was really playing out right. Us being able to convert that ball out to Jaden Reed and then drive the ball down the field for an amazing catch by Romeo Doubs. That's the type of playing that I want to see out of this team. We need to be seeing that type of playing happen consistently. If we continue to see stuff like this, I don't know who's going to be able to beat us. So yeah, I've got to give it to our last drive. It was just a Gouda drive of the day.
I mean, pump the brakes a little bit on not letting anybody beat us. Pump the brakes on that because there are some good teams out there in the NFL. But you're absolutely right. That was an amazing drive out there. The catch by, again, not sounding like a broken record, but that catch by Jaden Reed and that amazing touchdown catch by Romeo Doubs. Fantastic drive to put us on top.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, Packer family, that does it for this episode. So thank you again so much for listening. We truly appreciate it. And if you haven't yet, please hit, smash, like, and subscribe that follow button so that way you can be updated whenever new episodes are available. Also, please follow us on our Facebook page, West Coast Cheeseheads Podcast, Instagram at WC Cheeseheads Podcast, Twitter and TikTok at WC Cheeseheads. We truly appreciate it and thank each of you for joining us on the West Coast Cheeseheads Podcast. We may not like the cold, but certainly still rep the green and gold. Go Pack Go. Have a great week.